Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. It's been no secret that I am extremely excited about what Auburn is doing under Coach Hugh Freeze. And obviously, it starts with the talent acquisition, what they've done on the high school recruiting trail, in the transfer portal. And, I think something that's just kind of flying under the radar because of all the success Hugh Freeze has had on the recruiting trail is the coaching staff that Hugh Freeze is putting together. And it gets better with a very intriguing offseason hire in former Texas A&M defensive backs coach TJ Rushing coming over to this Auburn coaching staff Thursday afternoon. And what I want to talk about with TJ Rushing is two different things. One, it had some success with Texas A&M in that defensive back room back in 2022. They had the number one passing defense in all of the country. But I think more importantly, you continue to see the dedication that Hugh Freeze has into building a staff that can be elite on the recruiting trail. And that's where it starts with a guy like TJ Rushing. I want to get into what TJ Rushing brings to this Auburn staff, again, just as an assistant, but this is going to be a guy that's playing a massive role on the recruiting trail for this Auburn program. Fired up to get into it. Before we do it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, to the Auburn fans. And whether we're talking coaching hires, whether we're talking the recruiting trail, the amount of support y'all continue to show, it truly does mean a lot. I've said this a lot. This program's been a blast to talk about since Hugh Freeze has taken over. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into TJ Rushing. And I want to start with what he brings to Texas A&M on the recruiting trail. And I think a lot of Auburn fans and really just SEC college football fans can go back to that 2022 class for Texas A&M and say, we all remember how special that class was. You want to know a guy that played a large part in the talent coming to College Station. It was defensive backs coach TJ Rushing. And you go back to what he's done on the recruiting trail the last couple of years, five-star athlete Terry Bussey committing to Texas A&M. He was the primary recruiter. You look at five-star cornerback Denver Harris back in the 2022 class, primary recruiter on that one. Smoke Bowie, Bryce Anderson. You look at all the talent that Texas A&M has been able to kind of put together over the last couple of years. A guy like TJ Rushing has played a massive part in that. And you see with all of Hugh Freeze's coaching staff hires, it is with recruiting in mind. He's built this coaching staff fully recognizing that, yeah, you got to be good football coaches. There's no question about that. But I think more importantly, you got to have coaches that can get it done on the recruiting trail. If you are not recruiting at the top of the sport in college football, you're not going to be competing for SEC championships. You're not going to be competing for national championships. I think Hugh Freeze knows that more than anybody. And it's been a clear motivator in terms of how he's built this staff at Auburn. And a guy like TJ Rushing just kind of, further proves that point of the dedication that Hugh Freeze has had to really get this Auburn team as dangerous as possible on the recruiting trail. And then you get into TJ Rushing as a coach, and there will be some people who are critical of what happened at Texas A&M, and that's fully understandable. That was a program that did not reach their potential with the talent that they had. But you look at TJ Rushing and what he did in the defensive back room. Multiple guys got drafted from that Texas A&M secondary. And again, in 2022, they had the number one pass defense that you saw in the country. And now he comes over to Auburn. And one of the things that kind of makes me feel really good about this hire is, one, just a proven track record on the recruiting trail. But I think more importantly, two things that tell me that TJ Rushing might be a lot better of a coach than a lot of people might be saying on Twitter. Number one, he started his coaching career as a graduate assistant at Arizona State in 2013. And within the last decade, he moved up to be a defensive backs coach with one of the biggest programs that you saw in the country in Texas A&M. You don't consistently work up the coaching ranks if you can't get it done on the football field. Yeah, recruiting's one thing. You are not becoming a position coach at Texas A&M from a GA at Arizona State in less than 10 years if you're not a good football coach on the field. And I think secondly, look who knows a guy like TJ Rushing better than anybody. It's the defensive coordinator and DJ Durkin. DJ Durkin would not be going to Hugh Freeze and say, we got to go get a guy like TJ Rushing if he did not believe that TJ Rushing could bring some plus value in terms of what he can do as a player developer and a coach as well. And then you start playing around with this Texas A&M staff, specifically in the secondary, and say, you bring in TJ Rushing, elite recruiter at Texas A&M. Then you bring in a guy like Charles Kelly, who is one of the best recruiters that we see in the country, obviously hometown in Alabama. I mean, he was the primary recruiter on Caleb Downs, the primary recruiter on Kermani McClain to come to Colorado, the primary recruiter on a guy like Will Anderson to come to Alabama. The proof is in the pudding with this staff. Hugh Freeze is building a staff that can dominate on the recruiting trail. And again, that's kind of what fires me up the most. You look back at why Auburn struggled so much under Brian Harsin. It wasn't because, well, I don't know if Brian Harsin's a great coach anyways, but it really did start with Auburn just not having the talent to compete at the highest level. And I think Hugh Freeze understands that you can be as good of a coach as you want. There's a reason that the teams that recruit the best win the national championships. Getting talent is just kind of how you get your foot in the door. And you look back at Auburn at times when they've struggled, they haven't had their foot in the door because they haven't recruited the way this Auburn program should be recruiting. Hugh Freeze has recognized that and has clearly rectified the situation. You look at what Auburn's done in the portal, what they've done on the high school recruiting trail, how they're hiring coaches around Hugh Freeze. This is a program that is going to get better. And I think Hugh Freeze is putting a lot of effort into creating a program that can dominate the recruiting trail for the next decade. And I think that for Auburn fans is what should fire you up the most. TJ Rushing, really intriguing offseason get for Auburn. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Wanted to hop on and really just talk about TJ Rushing, but also what Auburn is doing, building this coaching staff predicated on dominating the high school recruiting trail. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.